Imagine a wedding so grand it brought the richest, most powerful stars to Venice, a city of secrets, masks, and timeless romance. But behind the glitter and glamour, something unexpected happened. Famous icons stumbled, whispered secrets, and revealed fears they never wanted you to see. And at the center of it all, Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez, a love story wrapped in scandal power and explosive twists no one saw coming. What really happened behind those palace walls? What truths did the cameras almost miss? Stay with us, because today on Starbuzz, we're pulling back the curtain on the most talked about wedding of the century. And trust me, this story isn't just about love. It's about power, betrayal, and the cracks in a perfect facade. Don't blink or you'll miss the truth. In the heart of Venice, a city where shadows of emperors linger in alleyways and gondolas glide like whispers across ancient waters, history held its breath for a moment that felt ripped from a royal fairy tale. Jeff Bezos, the mastermind behind Amazon, and Lauren Sanchez, the fearless media force turned life partner, didn't choose Venice by accident. This wasn't just a destination wedding, it was a declaration. A calculated union between legacy and luxury played out in a city where opulence has always danced with mystery. As the marble facades of centuries-old palazzos caught the flicker of golden candlelight, it became clear. This wasn't merely a celebration of love, but a broadcast of power. Bezos, once the nerd in a garage, now a tech titan with a seat among the gods, was turning the page. This time not for profits, but for partnership. Lauren wasn't just the bride. She was the headline. A symbol of resilience, presence, and transformation, having stood beside him through storms of public scrutiny and shifting fortunes. And now, under archways that have seen dynasties rise and fall, the couple entered a night choreographed to perfection, but fate, as always, had its own script. As the canals echoed with murmurs and anticipation, sleek black gondolas ferried in waves of the world's most powerful icons, innovators, influencers, each stepping delicately onto ancient stones, still echoing the steps of forgotten queens. The past was carved in every corner, but tonight it surrendered briefly to a modern spectacle that shimmered with the weight of expectation. And in this city where beauty hides cracks, even perfection could unravel in a heartbeat. For one night, Venice became more than a city, it became the heartbeat of Hollywood and the playground of the powerful. The guest list read like a fantasy casting. Oprah Winfrey, Kylie Jenner, Kim Kardashian, Kris Jenner, Khloe Kardashian, Tommy Hilfiger, each arriving not just as guests but as walking empires. Inside the candlelit palace, where chandeliers sparkled like captured stars and violins hummed centuries of elegance, even royalty of fame found themselves disarmed. Oprah, the indomitable queen of daytime TV, entered with her usual grace, yet even she found herself whispering a silent prayer with each step. The cobblestones beneath her feet became a stage for vulnerability, a reminder that even media gods have mortal ankles. When a clip of her tentative balance hit the internet, it wasn't just shared, it was dissected. Not for mockery, but fascination. Here was Oprah not commanding a stage, but braving the terrain like any other woman in stilettos. Then came Kylie Jenner, the youngest billionaire, sculpted by selfies and screen time, shimmering in a dress that moved like mercury. But one misplaced heel turned the fantasy into fragility. As she faltered on an ancient step, a collective gasp swept through the crowd. Cameras fired in unison, the stumble was immortalized before she could recover. For a heartbeat, the gloss cracked, revealing the girl behind the gloss. Not even silver silk could silence the echo of that misstep. Then, with the aura of heritage and high fashion, Tommy Hilfiger stepped forward, a man whose name defines American cool. Yet Venice has no loyalty to legacy. One loose step, one flicker of imbalance, and the fashion titan was suddenly at odds with the ground. Eyewitnesses claim his jaw clenched. Lip readers insist a sharp curse slipped through. The elegance of the night was real, but so was the chaos. It barely concealed a city, reminding the rich and famous that here marble always wins. Though no one confirmed the words, the still frame of Tommy Hilfiger's clenched jaw became a defining snapshot of a night that kept slipping from perfection. Yet the most fascinating moments weren't seen, they were overheard, or more accurately, lip-read. Viewers turned detectives slowed down the footage, decoding exchanges never meant for the public eye. Kris Jenner, the matriarch of media manipulation, was caught mid-command. Her voice unread, but her body language unmistakably firm. This wasn't just a wedding for Kris. It was another production. Every gesture, every glance, every whisper choreographed with the precision of a reality show scene. Her presence wasn't supportive, it was strategic. Next to her, Khloe Kardashian's guarded expression told a quieter story. A whisper shaky yet sharp, captured by zoomed-in lips. She feared slipping. not just physically, but symbolically. One wrong step could become a meme, a headline, a joke stitched into internet history. And then there was Kim, silent but dangerous. Leaning in her mouth moved just a few syllables, but their meaning set the internet ablaze. Was it a plan? A confession? A name? No one knew, but speculation erupted. The whisper became legend. Twitter threads, TikTok theories, even supposed experts tried to decode the moment. But like all great mysteries, the truth remained buried beneath the shimmer of designer gowns and soft candlelight. As part one closes, we zoom out from this parade of arrivals, this prelude of elegance teetering on the edge of chaos. In this first act, the powerful didn't just walk into a palace, they entered a crucible of pressure disguised as celebration. The air demanded composure, but the ground tested every heel and every heart. Slowly, the night stitched its own narrative. Not merely of love and lace, but of a Hollywood machine that craves flawlessness, yet leaks fragility when the spotlight sharpens. And there at the entrance stood Oprah once more, her gown brushing the stone like a wave, her diamonds flickering with borrowed firelight. But behind the glamour floated something deeper, a quiet shadow of vulnerability. For decades, Oprah has shaped conversations, but tonight it was her silence that echoed. Her voice has shaped eras, from royalty revealing their truths to presidents exposing their regrets. Oprah's interviews have rewritten cultural history. But in this fleeting, fragile moment, she wasn't the sovereign of talk television, she was simply a woman whispering silent affirmations to herself, willing her steps to stay steady on a marble floor older than America. The symbolism? Almost too precise to be real. Oprah, the master of poised balance between influence and empathy, now caught in a dance with gravity. She's weathered media storms, from backlash over ON's programming, to debates around her book club's influence, to interviews that exploded into global controversies. And yet she's always remained grounded. But tonight in Venice, there was no script. No teleprompter. Just the quiet reveal that even the most iconic need something solid beneath their feet. Then came Kylie Jenner, gliding in like a goddess of the algorithm. A walking brand, a billion-dollar blueprint carved from contour palettes and Instagram filters. Her step faltered for less than a second, but online it echoed like thunder. Because Kylie is image, controlled, curated, commercialized, her fortune dissected, her persona debated, her every blink a headline. So when that heel caught the stone, it wasn't just a trip, it was a symbolic crack in the perfection. Fans didn't laugh, they paused, rewatched, zoomed in. This was the untouchable beauty mogul momentarily human, battling the same crooked steps that humble thousands of tourists a year. The irony was poetic, almost cruel, the illusion slipping in a city built on illusion. The clip became a digital artifact, proving that no one, not even the face of Gen Z capitalism, walks above consequence. And then Tommy Hilfiger, a man whose logo once stitched rebellion into prep school collars, faced his own dance with disaster. His polished designer shoes, symbols of control and legacy, slid briefly across the unforgiving marble. A half-second of lost balance captured forever. In a city where style reigns, even fashion kings can fall. His frustration flickered across his face, jaw-clenched, lips drawn tight, a muttered curse slipping through, too quiet to confirm, yet loud enough to stir the air. Tommy Hilfiger, the man whose legacy is stitched in sharp lines and clean silhouettes, built his empire on control, on the illusion that every detail could be tamed. But in this single misstep, the Polish cracked. The stumble wasn't catastrophic, but it was telling. Fashion, after all, is the art of hiding chaos behind symmetry. The runway shows the beauty, but behind the curtain tape pins pressure. Over the years, Hilfiger's empire has ridden the waves of relevance, once dismissed, later rediscovered. Mocked, then mimicked. Yet here in Venice, there were no editors, no lighting. Just a man, a marble step, and the truth. Even icons falter. And that's when the whispers began, the most riveting layer of the entire event. Kris Jenner leaned in, her expression unreadable, her voice ablaze behind closed lips. Kris isn't just a mother, she's a mogul. The woman who turned family drama into gold, private pain into primetime, and awkward holidays into global franchises. She wasn't simply attending the wedding, she was stage directing it. As if this candlelit palazzo was just another set under her control. Her whispers carried the weight of decades of strategy. But beside her, something cracked open, a softer sound. Khloe Kardashian, known for her toughness, her reinventions let out a whisper that hit differently. A tremble. A confession. She feared the fall, not just the literal trip on Venetian stone, but the fall into another moment, frozen in internet time. Khloe has endured public invasions, body shame, heartbreak headlines dissecting her every choice. And here in this beautiful chaos, her whispered fear wasn't just about gravity, it was about legacy. About living in a world where one wrong frame becomes another scar. Her vulnerability was real, raw, and relatable. And then came Kim. Cool, composed, always calculated. She leaned in, spoke a few quiet words. No one caught them. No one needed to. Because with Kim Kardashian, even silence makes noise. She leaned closer, lips barely moving, a whisper that cameras captured, but microphones missed. And instantly the spark of speculation caught fire. Was it about the wedding? A warning? A secret family move? In true Kim Kardashian fashion, the mystery became more powerful than any confirmation. She's made a career out of contrast, revealing just enough to keep the world addicted, yet withholding the details that spark obsession. From her rise through reality TV to her billion-dollar beauty empire, courtroom aspirations, and tabloid-fueled romances, Kim's life has always walked the line between full exposure and calculated silence. And that whisper in Venice? It became a metaphor. A reminder that in the kingdom of celebrity, the most potent power lies not in what's said, but in what's deliberately left in shadow. As the evening unfolded, the energy shifted. These seemingly small moments, a stumble, a glance, a whisper, began stitching together something deeper. This was no longer just the wedding of Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez. It had transformed into a mirror reflecting the anatomy of fame itself. Power, wealth, image, vulnerability, all colliding in a city older than the empires these guests represented. Venice peeled back the polish, revealing something raw, unscripted, unexpectedly human. And at the heart of it all stood Bezos, the man whose story has been told like a modern myth, from humble bookseller to architect of a trillion-dollar machine called Amazon. A symbol of disruption, ambition, and wealth. But here among candlelight and cobblestones, Bezos wasn't just a groom. He was a man mid-reinvention. His past, the headlines, the divorces, the controversy, all present in the subtext of his smile. Once defined by his 25-year marriage, he now stood beside someone new, rewriting his image in real time. That first union ended with one of the most expensive divorces in history, amplified not just by numbers, but by revelation. Because at its center was Lauren Sanchez, and her presence changed everything. Long before her name became tabloid gold, she was already a force. Journalist, anchor, pilot, producer, a woman who carved her place in media with her own hands. But when the world found out about their affair, the headlines didn't just cover it, they consumed it. Leaked texts, private investigators, endless speculation. And in a flash, Lauren went from respected broadcaster to international spectacle, not for who she was, but for who she was with. She was no longer seen as the pilot who once reported from the skies, but as the woman who'd captured the heart of a billionaire, and in doing so, altered the trajectory of one of the world's most scrutinized love stories. Together, Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez stood inside the eye of a tabloid storm. Their leaked messages mocked on late-night TV, her character picked apart in headlines written with judgment instead of ink. And yet they didn't fold, they recalibrated. They took control of the chaos, slowly shifting the narrative from scandal to resilience. Over time, they became more than a couple, they became a spectacle. Sailing across the Mediterranean in luxury, posing with presidents laughing alongside A-listers, their appearances weren't just public, they were strategic. A curated image of partnership and presence, crafted one yacht deck and gala at a time. And now in Venice, a city as layered and enigmatic as their relationship, they weren't just celebrating love. They were branding it into permanence. The location spoke volumes. Venice, the city of masks and masquerades, of secrets buried under centuries of silk and stone. A city where merchants once ruled empires and alliances were sealed in candlelit cathedrals. It was the perfect stage for Bezos, the billionaire who's weathered congressional interrogations, union backlash, and endless public scrutiny, yet continues to rise cloaked in authority. Venice gave him a setting where controversy could masquerade as romance. A love story rewritten not in apology but in opulence. And Lauren? She didn't enter like an accessory to power, she arrived as its equal. Her gown made a statement. Her posture made another. Once framed as the outsider, the other woman, she now stood in the center of the frame, the bride who had rewritten her own narrative. For Lauren, this wedding was more than ceremony, it was reclamation. A statement to the world that she is not defined by leaks or labels, but by her choices, her resilience, and the man standing beside her. Yet the deepest irony of the night wasn't found in vows or speeches, it was in the unfiltered edges. The stumbles, the whispers, the unscripted slips caught on camera. Because just like their relationship, this wedding was built on the tension between design and reality, between the story they tried to tell and the one that unfolded anyway. Reality always finds its way through the cracks in Kylie's stumble, Oprah's whispered plea, Hilfiger's quiet frustration, Kris Jenner's sharp commands, Khloe's trembling fears, and Kim's secretive whisper. Each moment reflected the chaos beneath Bezos and Lauren's carefully crafted story. A vivid reminder that perfection is nothing but an illusion, and the true narrative lives in the flaws. As vows were exchanged and applause echoed through the Venetian halls, the cameras captured the dazzling wealth, the grandeur, the spectacle. Yet for those who looked closer, it wasn't the sparkle of diamonds or the shimmer of gowns that defined the night. It was the shadows lurking just beyond the light, the hushed whispers between promises, proof that even the most powerful are shaped more by what slips beyond their control than by what they command. The Venetian night deepened. The palazzo stood resolute, a beacon of light against the timeless currents. Candles flickered, jewels caught the glow, laughter floated on the air. But beneath the surface, an undeniable tension pulsed. The truth was impossible to ignore. This was no ordinary wedding. It was a meticulously staged performance, a ritual wrapped in layers of power, scandal, wealth, and secrets. Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez had chosen their stage with care, a city of masks where illusion and reality blur. And here in this maze of shadows and light, Hollywood's contradictions revealed themselves. Every falter, every whisper, every imperfect moment became the real story. Oprah murmuring a prayer to keep steady, Kylie faltering on ancient stone steps, Tommy muttering his frustration under his breath, Kris orchestrating with iron precision, Khloe's vulnerable confession, Kim leaning in with words unspoken. These fragments, woven through decades of headlines and scandals, formed a portrait not of perfection, but of raw, unvarnished reality. And reality, that elusive truth, is exactly what Hollywood works hardest to conceal. Jeff Bezos embodies this contradiction perfectly. From his humble start in a garage selling books to building the world's most dominant empire, his life seemed scripted for success. Yet beneath the polished surface, scandal shattered the illusion. His affair with Lauren Sanchez, laid bare by leaked texts and tabloid mockery, could have been the end. But instead of hiding, Bezos stepped into the spotlight, with her confronting criticism side by side. Together, they weathered the storm, transforming from scandal survivors into a couple seemingly crowned by the very spotlight meant to break them. Lauren Sanchez herself carried contradictions of her own. A respected journalist, a licensed pilot, a woman with achievements independent of Bezos, yet scandal reduced her to a simplistic label: the other woman. As her private life was dragged into the public eye, she refused to be defined by the whispers. Instead, she reshaped her story, standing proudly beside Bezos at lavish yachts, star-studded galas, and flashing cameras. Now in Venice, she was no outsider, but the bride of the century, her transformation complete, her narrative rewritten on her own terms, through strength, resilience, and choice. Still, the murmurs from the guests peeled back another layer. What are Hollywood weddings if not a mirror reflecting an industry built on illusion? The Kardashian dynasty, masters of turning personal chaos into public spectacle, exemplify this truth. Kris Jenner has orchestrated decades of scandals, romances, breakups, and controversies, spinning them into Profits episodes and headlines. Kylie's stumble, Khloe's fears, Kim's whispered secrets. They were never isolated moments, but threads woven into a larger tapestry of fame, power, and survival. They were symbols of a relentless machine that thrives on both glamour and downfall. Without scandal, there's no story. Without story, no empire. Oprah Winfrey, who built her kingdom on authenticity and the power of vulnerability, wasn't immune to the weight of Venice's gaze. Her whispered prayer not to stumble wasn't weakness, it was raw honesty. The same honesty that lifted her from humble beginnings to cultural royalty. Her near fall wasn't just a misstep. It was a powerful metaphor showing that even legends must reckon with the ground beneath their feet. Tommy Hilfiger, the maestro of fabric and fashion who survived generations of youth revolutions, was for a fleeting moment undone by cold stone. His muttered frustration was a reminder that perfection is fragile and fame, like fashion, is an artful illusion of balance. The fall is always lurking just beyond the spotlight's glow. But the whispers from the Kardashians spoke volumes, perhaps the truest glimpse into celebrity culture's core. Kris Jenner directing like the master of a set, Khloe confessing her fear not only of falling, but of being caught in vulnerability, and Kim murmuring secrets no one could decipher. These moments laid bare the Kardashian empire's truth. It doesn't thrive on flawlessness, but on spectacle. And spectacle demands cracks, drama, and imperfection to fuel its fire. What the world often labels mistakes are actually the raw materials that build an empire. So this Venetian wedding became more than vows, more than romance, more than Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez. It became a mirror, a reflection of Hollywood's endless dance, obsessed with control yet perpetually undone by the uncontrollable. A world obsessed with selling perfection yet thriving on imperfection. As the evening unfolded, violins sang softly and guests rose in applause as vows were exchanged. It was easy to get lost in the shimmer, the dazzling gowns, sparkling diamonds, the grand spectacle of wealth. But the true story wasn't in the jewels. It was in the shadows behind the sparkle, in the whispered exchanges, the caught stumbles, the glimpses of fragile humanity slipping through every flawless moment. This is the essence of celebrity culture. It lives on contradictions. It builds empires on tales of love, but markets them through scandal. It crowns queens for their strength, but profits most when they falter. It glorifies riches while devouring vulnerability. The Venice wedding was the perfect stage for this paradox. Here stood Bezos, the unstoppable titan transformed into a groom. Here was Lauren, the once scandalous outsider reborn as the bride. Here stars who usually embody untouchable glamour showed their most human fears, frustrations, and flaws. The internet didn't latch onto those moments out of cruelty. It did so because the world yearns for truth. Kylie's stumble was relatable. Oprah's whispered plea was universal. Hilfiger's mutter was real. Kris's commanding tone was familiar. Khloe's fear was human. Kim's secretive whisper was mysterious. The public didn't see gods or goddesses. They saw people caught in the same gravity, the same uncertainty, the same delicate vulnerability that binds us all. That's why the Venice wedding won't just be remembered as a lavish spectacle. It will stand as a story of contradictions, a grand pageant of wealth undone by raw humanity. Bezos and Lauren shaped a narrative of power and love, but history will remember not their quest for perfection, but the beautiful imperfections they couldn't hide. Hollywood has always thrived in the tension between control and chaos, the dazzling spotlight on stage and the messy, unpredictable drama backstage. The Venice wedding perfectly captured this delicate dance, showing the world that no matter how wealthy, powerful, or glamorous you are, reality refuses to be scripted. As the final fireworks faded over the Venetian skyline, gondolas glided quietly through the ancient canals, and the Grand Palazzo emptied of its glittering crowd, the city returned to its timeless calm. But the story? That lived on, dissected in headlines, decoded by lip readers, replayed endlessly in viral clips, and whispered across every corner of social media. Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez's wedding wasn't just a celebration. It was another gripping chapter in Hollywood's endless saga of love, scandal, and truth. Because in the end, it wasn't the diamonds that dazzled the brightest. It was the imperfections. It wasn't the vows that captured history, but the whispers between them. The carefully curated spectacle cracked just enough for the real story to shine through. Venice, with its centuries of secrets, had witnessed one more. The undeniable proof that even the richest and most powerful are tethered by the gravity of being human. In a world where billionaire love stories are packaged as flawless fairy tales, perfect, glamorous, and untouchable, what if behind the glitter and grandeur lay a hidden battlefield? A war of secrets, billion-dollar power plays, and explosive truths threatening to rewrite everything we thought we knew. Tonight, Starbuzz pulls back the curtain on Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez, revealing the shocking twist that no wedding photo could ever capture.